My name is Alicia Crandall, and I'm the Education Coordinator at Missoula Aging Services, where I have been happily employed for over 10 years. It's my pleasure to welcome all of you to the workshop today. We're going to do our best to be done at 6:30. Thanks so much to Missoula Community Access Television, otherwise known as MCAT, for filming today. Mary Gray is filming our workshop today. We received a media assistance grant to do that so that we can make this workshop available to others after it's over. In front of you, you'll see an image and voice release form. It's a half page. And this is giving us permission to film you in the workshop today. If for some reason you do not want to be filmed, we have a table back over here you can sit at, and we'll make sure that you're not being filmed. I called it the safe zone. I think we're all pretty safe, but it will, if that is uncomfortable for you, please you can move over that direction. Thank you, Mary, and thank you, UNCAT. We have two presenters today. We're going to start out with Renee LaBrie-Shanks, my coworker from Missoula Aging Services. Renee is the Montana SMP Program Manager, and she's worked in the aging field since the year 2000. It just outdated you. I dated you, Renee.
I started when I was 12.
Yep, she was a baby when she started. SMP stands for Senior Medicare Patrol. Renee's primary role at Missoula Aging Services is to educate consumers about healthcare fraud, waste, and abuse prevention. I'm also welcoming today from Helena, Nancy Anderson. Nancy is the AARP Montana Outreach Director and has worked with AARP since 2001. Nancy manages AARP Montana's outreach and volunteer program. She also leads work in the areas of fraud prevention, caregiving, and livable communities. She is thrilled to deliver to Missoula the AARP presentation on cybersecurity this evening and has traveled a long way. Did everyone get a ticket? A red ticket? If you did not, please go to the back. We will be doing a door prize at the end for a shredder that was provided by SMP. And please help yourself to snacks and refreshments while I will welcome Renee. Thanks, Renee. Thank you, and I usually don't need a mic, so hopefully I won't yell too loud. I'm going to have to talk softer now. As she said, Renee LaBrie-Shanks, I work at Missoula Aging Services, where we promote the independence, dignity, and health of older adults and those who care for them. And one of those programs is through the Montana SMP program, which is national. It's in every state, so if you have friends and relatives elsewhere, you can find us. What I'm going to talk about briefly today, I'm going to do an intro before we get into the main event and talk about medical identity theft, because that impacts everyone. There's studies that say 1 in 8 of us will have our medical identity compromised at some point in some way. And it costs an average of $13,500 to clear that up and about 200 hours of our time. And part of the reason for that is there's no centralized place where all of our medical information is kept. And more than that, medical identity theft can cost more because it can be sold over and over and over, unlike regular identity theft. So that can be a big deal. Not to make you too frightened out there, because there's some steps that we can take. And one of the main things is read your medical statements. A lot of the fraudsters get away with it because people aren't reading their statements. And Medicare, by the time they catch it, it's $1.9 million, but we can stop it when it's $100. There's cases time and time again where doctors bill for services that people never received. And so it's quite obvious. You're looking for dates of service, you're looking for the services themselves, and you're looking for providers you recognize. And if there's something out of sorts there, that's when you look into it. And you can call Montana SMP for help. If you want to call your provider, you can do that, but the big thing is to question things that seem out of sorts. And we work with the Department of Justice, who prosecutes the fraud, and the Office of Inspector General, who investigates. We're the mostly unknown partner, the third piece of the puzzle that tries to stop it before it happens. Because it gets to 1.9 million, we're not just out 1.9 million, because the money's been mostly spent, but we're spending money investigating, and we're spending money prosecuting. And we're spending money selling off the cars and the fancy houses and things like that to recoup the money. So it's a lot of lost money once it's that far. So the first line of defense and the best line of defense is us reading our statements. And the Inspector Generals do have a good term for this. I don't want to make you wary of everybody out there. They say that we've got 80% of our providers who are great. They're doing just great. 10% are the innovators. They're driving things forward. And then we've got 10%. It's a very technical term, but they're the losers. So we don't want you afraid of the losers. They're not any smarter than any of us. The number one risk factor to falling victim to scams, I want to ask you if anybody has ideas of what that would be. Does anybody have an idea what it might be? Puts you more at risk of falling victim.
Being able to read
Yeah.
what you get from the hospital.
Yes, that's a good point. And that's what SMP is here to do. We can help you understand your statements. We can help you get organized. We have free tools. And we can research billing complaints. And if we can't get them cleared up, we can refer them to the Office of Inspector General. But the number one thing that makes you the most at risk is called the illusion of invulnerability. And that's just like, if you don't think you can get taken, that's what puts you the most at risk. And I think because all of you are here today, you probably are looking and seeking out information. So that means you're probably not the highest risk population. But if you have a TV, phone, a mailbox, or an internet, we're all at risk because they can reach us. So by educating yourself and staying on top of things, you're not going to fall victim. The last thing I want to say today, because I do work in a Medicare fraud control program, is how many of you are aware that new Medicare cards will be coming out? Everybody? For those of you who are not, just know this, that Medicare is not going to call you and ask for personal information. Nobody's going to email you and ask you to respond. They're simply going to arrive in the mail and you will start using them. So if anybody contacts you for any reason regarding those, that's a scam. So just keep that in mind. So, yes?
Do you shred your old one then?
That's a good question. They do ask that you completely shred, quit carrying around your old one. And the doctor's offices right now can use both. So you can start using your new one immediately. And it looks like in the 6th wave, according to everything I've seen, which means we might not get them until January. Except for people coming on Medicare, everybody will get a new card and a new number. So don't be surprised if you don't get them until closer to the end of the year. But April is when it ends, and you should have it by next April if you haven't. Yes?
I've seen it in a mixed bag in our office in insurance, in that some of the people coming in that are just aging into Medicare are coming in with their cards with their social security numbers, and some are actually coming in with new numbers.
Okay, yeah, if they age in after April, they should be getting the new number, and if they're not,
Not all of them.
Wow.
It's kind of a mixed bag out there, so.
okay. Well, those folks will get theirs as well. It's all gonna be done, but they were trying to get everybody coming on all set, so they don't have to redo anything. Yes?
Yeah, I have a question. I might not be understanding it, but on the new cards, are there going to be new numbers that we have now?
Yes, it'll be alphanumeric,
Okay,
completely
so-
unattached to anything.
So those new numbers then have to be given to the people that are supposed to have them. We have to contact, do all these contacts.
You don't have to do anything until you need to use it, and then you just put it in your wallet, carry it like you do your other insurance cards, and you give it to your new providers, and they'll know to when they need to ask for the new ones. But your old card number will still work up until December of next year, so December of 2019, the old card number will still work.
So I'm talking like maybe our license or something like that?
Your, driver's license?
Yeah.
Those shouldn't have a social on them anymore in Montana.
Okay, good.
Yeah, this is a Medicare card.
Okay, the new Medicare cards, you can carry them, not like the old ones.
Yes, and I'm glad you asked that. We're going to hold till questions till the end after this one, but I do want to answer that because it's very important that the new cards, even though they're not your identity, if they get stolen, somebody can still bill for services in your name. So you need to be very protective of them, just like you do. But the nice thing about the new ones, as opposed to the current ones, you can cancel them if they get compromised and get a new number. But it's still very important to protect them because, again, if somebody bills for services in your name, Medicare's gonna be paying for those services. So thank you for that question. We'll hold all the rest to the end, and I will turn it over to Nancy, who will take over from here.
Thank you.
How about now? Oh, there, that sounds a little different to me. So, thank you very much. My name is Nancy Anderson. I am the Outreach Director with AARP Montana, and as Alicia said, I've been there since 2001, and I've worked in the fraud area for AARP for about 5 or 6 years now. So I'm very pleased and want to thank Missoula Aging Services for asking me to be here today. I'm excited to have an opportunity to share the information about cyber safety with you. Now, cyber safety, that sounds like kind of a scary term and almost something that normal people, everyday people like you and I might not need to know about. But really, in simple terms, what it means is just keeping ourselves and our personal information safe and protected while we're online. So it's really pretty straightforward. So the internet has become a normal operating procedure for us these days. It's the way that we connect to each other. It's the way we connect to businesses. We shop online, we bank online, pay our bills online. We chat with each other over email or on social media. Some of us even date online. So that's really become a normal way for us to connect with one another and with businesses. And given that that's the normal landscape these days, that's also where some of the fraudsters and the bad guys have gone to try to compromise our information. They've got a lot of different ways to do that, and I'm hoping that by sharing some of these things with you today, it will make you alert to it. You'll recognize it if you run across it, and as importantly, you can share it with your family and friends because you're here getting this information and they're not. So anything you can pass on to them can help you to help them to stay safe as well. So I want to begin by telling you about AARP's Fraud Watch Network. Before I go too much into that, let me refer you to the bags and that you had at your place settings. Really should have told you this ahead of time. I've got a copy of my presentation right there for you in case you want to make any notes. Follow along as you go. Also, I've got a couple of good pieces of information, the Fraud Watch Handbook and the Con Artist Playbook. That Con Artist Playbook gets inside of the head of the con artist. We did a lot of research and jailhouse interviews. We worked with law enforcement to find out from those bad guys how they got people to do the things that they got people to do. And so by knowing that, that also helps to keep you safe. Additionally in there, you've got this thing from the Fraud Watch Network, and it is actually a scam alert, a watchdog alert. There's one on each side of the paper. I'm going to talk about that in a minute, but this is what I signed up for the Fraud Watch Network, and I get this in my email box every 2 weeks, a different one. So I print it off, and I make it available to people that I meet with and I talk to. I take it to my book club, and I share it there, so that even people who are not part of that Fraud Watch Network can benefit from the information. And I'll tell you how you can join that, but I just wanted to point that out to you. And finally, there's a card that if you want to become part of that Fraud Watch Network, if you want to sign up to get an email alert every 2 weeks, we don't share this information even with any other part of AARP. So you won't get any information about insurance or about our other activities. You're only going to get information about fraud alerts from this. But if you don't have an email, you can still go ahead and sign up because we'll send a hard copy newsletter a couple of times a year to get you updated on the things that we've been sending the emails out about. So I'll collect these at the end of the presentation today if you're interested. And I've got some extras back in the back if you decide you want to take some for family and friends. You can get them back to Alicia, or there's an address on here that you can mail them to, and we can get you entered into the network. So what is the network? Funny I should ask. So right here, the Fraud Watch Network is a website that AARP has dedicated to fraud prevention. It's available to anyone of any age for free, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's got really good information about how to get inside of the latest scams and tech scams that are going around. Really good information. It also it has a spot right here where people can sign up to be a member of this Fraud Watch network. So it's an educator. It's also a resource. Maybe you get a phone call or you see a funny email that you're just not sure about. Maybe you've said something on the phone and then panicked and said, oh no, I better talk to somebody about this. Maybe that was a scam, maybe I should talk to someone. We've got a call center, 2 call centers that are staffed by trained volunteers. So you can call the number, it's on the information that you've got there, and you can call it and talk to a real life person. They can help you to identify if it is a scam. They can help direct you to where you need to report it. So it's a real good resource. You don't have to be an AARP member. You don't have to be 50 years old. It's open to anyone, anytime. So online fraud and cyber scams. Identity theft has become very prevalent, and it's unbelievable the amount that there is. So I want to read you, this is the only thing I'm going to read here, but I've got some statistics that I think are kind of stunning. According to the FTC, in 2017, there were over 270,000 consumer fraud complaints, amounting to a total of $800 million. And that's just for the instances that were reported. A lot of those scams go unreported for many reasons. Some people don't know they've been scammed. Some people are ashamed to admit they've been scammed. Some seniors are afraid of losing their independence if they let anyone know that they've been scammed. So a lot of those crimes go unreported. In Montana alone, there were nearly 5,000 reports of fraud and financial losses of over $1.3 million. So it's prevalent, it's here, it's happening all the time. The internet is really a gold mine for scam artists, and they work on frauds that are very simple or very complex hacks. I think we've all heard about the Equifax breach, which is a pretty scary thing. More than 360,000 Montanans were affected by that scam, by that hack. And we'll be seeing the outcome of that for years to come. Maybe there hasn't been much impact felt yet, but all of that information is out there in the dark web, and they're selling it from group to group. And so we will all begin to see those impacts before long, I think. And there's something new happening all the time. I was stunned to see that there are over 8,400 new malware viruses launched every day for Android devices alone. So you can see that they're trying to compromise our mobile devices. It's everywhere, so we really must be vigilant. So let's change this up a little bit. What percentage of people don't use a passcode for their smartphone? How many people think it's 10%? Raise your hand. How many people think it's 26%? How many think it's 45%? Well, you know, you're right. And a passcode is really simple to put onto your devices, isn't it? And the reason, some people, I've heard them say, well, it's pain, I can't get in and into it every time I want to. But if you're to become separated from your device, if it's stolen, or if you leave it somewhere, I left mine in the dressing room the other day when I was trying on some jeans. I mean, we become separated from our devices very easily these days because they're with us all the time. So if you don't have a passcode, someone can get into that device and they can see what you've done in your banking, who you've visited with, they can compromise their mailing lists. So that makes it really dangerous. So take that extra step and make sure that your devices are secure. So, other online risk factors. Not monitoring your online bank or credit cards. Just like Renee talked about, you need to take a look at those medical bills as they come in and make sure that they're visits that you actually had, that they're for services that you had. Same way with your bank and your credit cards. You need to set an online account up so that you can just hop in there every day and take a look at it. And it's good because you're monitoring your accounts, But it's also good because you've established an account to do that. Someone else can't come in now and set up an account to monitor your account. So that's a really good way. Get in there, make sure you've got them set up safely on all of your accounts so that you can check them out. Another risk factor is not changing passwords. And boy, do I know what a pain that is. Don't we have a million different passwords for so many different things? But I was kind of stunned to see that within the past 3 months, we did a survey through the Fraud Watch Network, and more than 50% of the people had not changed their password within the last 3 months. What was even more surprising to me is that 10% had never changed their password. So keep that in mind. It's important to keep those fresh. If it's compromised anywhere along the line and you just continue to use it, and especially if you use it with all of your accounts, the same one, that's really not a good idea. And you need to be a little tricky with your passwords too. The experts say it shouldn't be your dog's name or your grandson's birthday or some of those things that are pretty easy to find out now that we have social media and that people can really pretty much figure out. One thing that they advise is that you take a phrase that's familiar to you or a song lyric, and let's say it's happy birthday. Happy birthday. HBD. So that might be the first 3 letters. Then maybe you get the numbers from the telephone keypad that associate with those. And then maybe you stick a symbol in there. So it's a phrase that you can easily remember, something that someone else can't easily figure out. And so be thinking of that, a way to really be clever, a way that it's familiar to you, but you can keep it safe out there online. Another way that we're at risk is by not protecting your computer, not protecting your devices. There's really good software out there, many different kinds, Norton, McAfee, many other things that you can go online, you can research, you can go to your electronics store, talk to them, see what they suggest, and get it on your computer. What I don't want you to do is to respond to a pop-up screen that might show up while you're working on your computer that says you've got a virus, click this link, we'll load up some software for you. That's a scam. That is not a good idea. Never do that. If something like that happens, turn your machine off, turn it back on, and then do some research on your own to find a software protection program that you're comfortable with. Also, don't respond when you get those phone calls from people that say that they're from Microsoft and that they've detected a virus on your machine, and would you please let them log into your machine? That's also a scam. It'll cost you money, and they can really load malware onto your machine and get into all of your accounts and compromise your personal information. So make sure that it's something that you've reached out, you've researched, you've independently checked, and then you're safe in getting it as long as it's you. Don't ever respond to a stranger sending you information about buy this, click this, look here. So here's a little quiz. Which of these activities is it safe to perform over a public Wi-Fi? Yeah, the weather. That's it. Don't bank, don't buy things, don't check your email or your Facebook account, because there's several ways that that can be intercepted on a public Wi-Fi. When you're at home and you're on your own home Wi-Fi, where you've locked it up with a password, or you're somewhere that it's a secure internet access that someone has given you access to with a password, that's okay. But if you're just at Starbucks or at the airport, that's a dangerous situation. There's a couple ways that people can get your information that way. One is called the man in the middle. And this scam is really just like an eavesdropper. You're trying to log on to what is a public Wi-Fi, but he has hacked into your account. So when you go to your bank thinking you're on the public Wi-Fi, you're really talking to him because he's eavesdropping. And he's getting your passwords, your keystrokes, your banking number. He's collecting the information. And maybe you were trying to shift some money from your checking account to your savings account. It very likely could go to his savings account. So that's a man-in-the-middle scam. It's bad news. You want to stay away from public Wi-Fi for that reason. And here's another reason you want to stay away from public Wi-Fi. We call it the evil twin. So really, you're at Starbucks and you go to log on to their public Wi-Fi and you get your whole list of Wi-Fi's up and you see that one's called coffee shop. So you think, oh, well, that's a coffee shop. I'm going to log on to that. You need to go and verify with the people at Starbucks what their Wi-Fi network is called, because it could be someone that's sitting in there who set up a phony and evil twin Wi-Fi, again, to collect your information, to intercept your activity. So always check at the airport, always check at the hotel to find out what the name of their public Wi-Fi is. Still use those safeguards. But for sure, make sure you've got the right one. Don't just log on to anything. And don't set your phone or your tablet to just search and click onto any Wi-Fi that's available, because that could really compromise you. You want to make sure that that's something you have to take a step to do, so that you're doing it consciously and you know what account you're logging on to. This is another kind of crazy one. It's called war driving. And someone with a device could just drive around neighborhoods and log on to any open Wi-Fis that they can connect to. They can load malware onto that then will report to them everything that you're doing. So that's why it's important to keep your home Wi-Fi secure. Make sure it's locked up. Make sure you have a password that's not your street address, that's not your last name, something that your neighbors or someone driving by wouldn't be able to figure out. Make sure that it's a secure password. So just to recap, don't access sensitive information online over a public Wi-Fi. Verify the true name before logging on and make sure that your home Wi-Fi is secure. Pretty straightforward. Phishing. You know, I love this word fishing because it always reminds me of when my dad used to take me fishing and we would throw out the line with some bait and we'd reel it in. And that's exactly what we talk about when we talk about fraud scams. They're throwing out bait and a line. They're hoping that we're going to grab it and they're going to reel us in. So there are several kinds of phishing scams. Really what it boils down to is it's someone who sounds legitimate. It's a business that sounds legitimate, like Social Security, the IRS, your doctor's office, your credit card company reaches out to you, Medicare reaches out to you and asks you to verify your information because they're updating their records. Well, they've got your information. If they're really who they say they are, they've got your information. Never verify it with them over a link that has been sent to you by someone that you don't really know who it is. If you have a question, do your research independently. Check out what their customer service online. Don't click the link that they send you. Do independent search. Find a phone number, call the bank. Are you updating accounts? Did you need information from me? So just don't respond to those unsolicited requests from strangers. Or even maybe from somebody that you think you know. Maybe it's from a friend that says, hey, I'm kind of in a bad way. Can you loan me $50? Can you get an iTunes card and send it to me? My car broke down in Helena today. Well, your friend would probably call you, and your friend probably wouldn't ask you for an iTunes card. And I think if you hovered over that address with your mouse in the email, you would find that instead of Mark Smith, your friend's name, it might say Boo224. Might say, I'm a bad guy stealing your money. It's some kind of fake address, and you can see what the actual web address by taking your mouse. Don't click on it, but just hover over it on your computer screen. And if it's Wells Fargo, it's really going to be a Wells Fargo address. But if it's something else, it's not Wells Fargo. It's not the IRS. It's not Medicare. So never give information, never update information, personal information on a link that's been sent to you unsolicited without properly verifying independently. So don't open files from strangers. Hey, if you get a little notice that says you've won an Amazon card, just fill out this form with your personal information and we'll get you that card, a $50 Amazon card or a Starbucks card. You didn't win a card. They're just fishing for your information. So if it sounds too good to be true, it is. Also, a strange message from a friend, like I said. If maybe I haven't been secure with my internet and someone has hacked into mine, they've got my address book. So they could shoot out messages to all of my friends and it would sound like it's coming from Nancy Anderson. So be very careful about any kinds of inquiries you get like that. Thoroughly read messages. I think we've all kind of heard or read some of those messages from the Nigerian prince with the funny language and the funny capitalization and improper pronouns. There are a lot of those things out there floating around and they're all not as obvious as the Nigerian prince. So really read it. If it sounds a little fishy, it probably is. If the tone's wrong, if the language seems to be off, trust your instincts. Don't click on anything unless you're 100% sure you know where it's come from. And like I say, independently verify. I can't say that enough because you know you've got that little voice in your head and it's easy to just click that link and stop yourself, make sure that you're independently verifying. And always check to make sure that if you're on a website, a shopping website, a banking website, anywhere that you're putting in personal information, that it's secure. So if it has this S at the end of it, you know that it is secure. HTTPS. That S means it's a secure site. Oftentimes it'll also have a little padlock. If it doesn't have that S, do not put private information in there. I bought one of those cards, those Visa gift cards that you can get. That's what I use for a lot of my online shopping. I figure that way if I get compromised, I can only lose the amount that I already put into that card. It's not some big credit limit. And I was trying to go in and check my balance in that little card that I bought at CVS or wherever it was. And I kept getting a funny site that didn't look like the one I'd gotten before. I was putting the site in, but I might have been typing it just one letter off. And it was not a secure site, but it looked, had I not been aware, it looked a lot like the site that I had gone to previously to check that balance. Well, if I had put my card number in there and my password, my $14.50 would have gone out the window. So it's just a really good lesson that I learned. So, what are some steps you can take to avoid this? It's pretty much exactly what I've talked about. Monitor your accounts online, secure your passwords, change them, make sure that you keep them up to date and that you keep them fresh. Protect your computer with software protection, computer protection that you have independently researched and purchased, that you've not purchased through a pop-up on your screen. Control your surfing. Be careful when you're on public Wi-Fi. You can go anywhere you want on your home Wi-Fi as long as you know that it's secure. But you just want to be very, very careful. Don't even check Facebook or your email when you're out on a public Wi-Fi. Watch for fake connections, like that one from that credit card company. I just thought that was crazy. I thought, this is not what I looked at when I checked it last week. And they all are very close. They often will have them close enough that if you're just typing in and you get one letter off, it pops up something that, and they can really put those fake sites so they look like they're legitimate. Beware of phishing scams. Anyone that reaches out to you that acts like they're a trusted source, a trusted business, or a friend, but they want you to reply back with personal information, don't do it. Check independently, call them, use a different method to get that information to them if it's a legitimate request. So I'd just like to again tell you about the Fraud Watch Network. If you'd like to get those tips, fill out that little card and I'll take it with me. We'll get you into the system. Also, I hope that you enjoy these little goodies here that I put in your bags. These are protective items that you can put your cards in, your credit cards. I'm sure you all have heard there's software that people can load on their phone and they can walk around and just by being near you, they can steal the information off of your credit card. But this is a RFID case. You can put them in here. It reflects away so it doesn't allow your information to be compromised. So with that, were there any questions?
What about if you're using public Wi-Fi and you go into incognito mode? Are you protected any there, or are you still in danger?
I'm not sure what the question was, if you're on a public Wi-Fi and you go into incognito mode, are you still protected or are you safe? I wouldn't use give any of my personal information or use any personal sites if I were on any public Wi-Fi.
You've gone incognito?
I've not gone incognito, but I just don't know that I would feel safe enough, but I would maybe.
Incognito is not as secure as it's made out to be. It's people that know how to get into it.
Okay. I would say anytime you're on anywhere that isn't 100% secure network, better safe than sorry. That is just the rule of thumb that I always use. Sir?
Could you explain again about hovering over an address
Yeah.
Is that something I'm not familiar with?
Okay, like you get the email and it says that it's to, if I get an email, it says it's to Nancy Anderson and it's from Alicia Crandall. So that's the from. And if I hover over the from with my mouse, don't click, you just roll your mouse over the top of it, I can see what Alicia's actual email address is, or what the address that's affiliated with that email. So Alicia's my friend, and I know what her email is. And if it, instead of saying A. Crandall at Aging Services, it says 224 yikes, I'll know that that's not really from Alicia, because I can see that without clicking, without actually going into that. So test that, roll over those addresses. It might say the name, it might say Wells Fargo, but when you roll your mouse over it, when you hover it over it, you can see what the keystrokes actually were, that's the name on that email account.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else?
What's the dark web? Heard that term.
Yeah, the dark web is a portion of the internet that's not available to most of us. It's where there's a lot of criminal activity that goes on in the dark web, where there's special passwords that they get in. They conduct a lot of criminal activity down lower, but it works under the same technology as the regular internet. But that's where our information is bought and sold. One thing I've cautioned you, I normally do a presentation on regular fraud and dealing with the phone calls. You know, there's a lot of folks that will get the phone call from the Microsoft guy, obviously calling from India at 11 o'clock at night on Sunday, wanting to tell you that you've got a virus. Well, they want to mess with him. They want to keep him on the phone, because if they're keeping him on the phone, he's not calling somebody else. But they time you. They time how long you've left the connection open. And they have different increments, and the longer the increment is, the more valuable that name and phone number is for them to sell to someone else. Because that's where that activity goes. You know, they don't take a classified ad out. They have dealings on what's called the dark web. And they have lists of people that have stayed engaged with them for 5 minutes, or 6 minutes, or 8 minutes. And the longer they stay engaged, the more money they get, because they're more vulnerable. At some point, if people are really on the phone with them for a long time, they all figure that they can get them. They can get them eventually to do what they want them to do. So it's an undercurrent of the internet. Anybody else?
You say monitor your accounts online. Do you really mean monitor your online accounts?
I mean, monitor your online accounts, but do it online. Set up an online account from your secure home Wi-Fi where you're checking into your bank account every day. So you have to actually log in and set up that account to access your bank account.
So you would have to have a different account for each one of your accounts?
Well, you log on to wherever it is. Like we've got an account at our Wells Fargo for our bank. We've got an access account that we just set up. And they have them all available through Wells Fargo. And then I've set one up for my credit card where I can get into my credit card and check that. And I've got one for my Kohl's card where I can get into my Kohl's card and check that.
So you just get on and check what
Right.
activity there is?
Right, and you set up a password and a log on. And once you've done that, someone else can't do that associated to that account. If you've never done it, then, you know,
I've
that.
done it, I just didn't know I did.
Right, yeah, excellent.
No, I was just gonna share that I've done that, but for those people that aren't aware, your bank will actually help you do that, will do it for you.
Right, good point. If you need to set up an online account to monitor your bank account, you know your bank and they'll help you to set that up. They'll help you with your password and they won't let you. I remember the lady was helping me and my husband and I were both sitting next to each other and I said, use this password, and I rattled it off and she said, shh, don't share it. So I was like, okay.
A lot of times too, the banks will have a computer there that you
Right.
can log on to and have them walk you through the steps.
And one thing that you'll find, I recently changed my computer at work. If you've logged on to your bank account over a certain device, it recognizes what's called your IP address, that's the address of that computer. Well, I got a new computer at work, and it's set up in the same place, but I was not recognized every time I tried to log into some of my secure accounts. So they had to independently verify by sending me a password to my cell phone number, texting it, and then I had to put in that password. And I'm glad. I know that those accounts are safe and that I've set them up right and that those business people are doing the right thing by me, by making it secure and having a double check and a double check. Even though I used the same password and the same log on, it recognized that it was from a different machine. So don't be surprised if you run across that too. Yes?
It concerns me that to make a bank account, or some kind of account, online account, sometimes the bank, the registration for that requires your social security number.
I'm not so sure about that. Check with your institution. They might require it to initially set up the account, but not to set up the access, not at least that I've run across. So I would double check that. And if you feel uncomfortable with that, call that institution and say, look, I want you to use a different number. Let's establish a different number because I don't want to use my social security number.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd be very careful about that.
And so when you refrain from setting up accounts online, you're opening yourself up to more danger.
Someone else could go in and set it up. So it's always good to have that attachment to an account that you know is secure so that you can monitor it. Alicia?
I have a question about, well, first of all, I want to say I'm learning a lot right now, and I'm a Gen Xer. I'm learning a lot. I'm curious about hotspots on phones, like sometimes when I'm traveling and I need to do banking or other things, and let's say I'm at the airport. Do you know anything about this? Or
You know-
someone else does, is the hotspot secure?
Yeah, the question is a hotspot that you can pay extra for, and sometimes it's a little device you carry with you, or sometimes it's something you can just activate in your phone. And Alicia's question was, is that a secure? I don't know enough about it. I would not feel safe unless I were, and I guess when you log on, you can see if it's got the padlock and if it's HTTPS.
In order to log in, they send you a passcode, and then you log in. But
So
I
that
can
would be,
research that.
that would be something good for us all to research. I'll look into it too, because I'm not sure.
Okay.
Anything else, other experiences that you might have had? Yes.
my mother is 87 and is not computer literate whatsoever. And she thought she was safe. And I guess I scared her to pieces. Because all your insurance companies use the internet and all the information that they have is on the internet. Anytime, like, well, Medicare, Medicaid, whatever, is on the internet. And I said something to her, you know, just because you don't have a computer, everybody you deal with, your doctor's office and everybody does, so all your information is out there. And so now she's scared and doesn't know what to do about it.
Well, I guess my word of advice would be, as long as she's dealing with legitimate, reputable businesses, your information will be out there. But if you're signing up for insurance quotes, let's say, at kind of a blind account, where you're getting a lot of information and then you start getting all of those quotes back in from lots of different insurance companies, that's probably not so good. But if she's dealing with Prudential Insurance, who she's talked with securely and privately, then, I mean, that's just the landscape that we have today. That's the environment that we live in. But as long as we deal carefully with legitimate companies that we know will safeguard our information, I guess that makes it, puts even a little bit more onus on us as people that we're deciding to do business with. And to be careful, I'll tell you, we're looking for a house right now. And so we're driving around the neighborhoods and I'm seeing a for sale sign and I'm trying to find it on the internet. And all of a sudden, the next Monday at work, I get a call from a realtor. I understand you're looking for a house. And I said, well, maybe. Why do you ask? Well, I see that you logged onto my site. Well, in such a rush, I wanted to see pictures of the inside of this house. I must have put at least my name and email address, my phone number, because he called me at work. So that was a big lesson to me, to be careful about what kinds of interaction I have, because I didn't really intend to give my information as I was driving around on my cell phone to that realtor. So
we put those, what was it called on the credit, with the three credit card, the three credit companies, where that nobody can look at our.
a credit freeze?
A credit freeze.
Right.
I mean, it costs $3 or $4 for each of them. But we did that after we read about it, and so nobody can go in and set up, access your credit.
They can't ping your credit to just run it, because they would have to do that if they were trying to open up a fraudulent
So
account.
when we were buying a house,
Right.
we told when the money came up and it had to be verified, we told the bank to tell us when they needed to know. We unfroze the company they talked to, one of the three, for $3.
Right.
And then they could go in and they had 24, 48 hours or 72 hours that it was unfrozen. And, you know, we just made sure that they knew that. So they could check our credit rating and check the bank and all that sort of stuff, and then that all fell back into place. And
Then it
so
was locked
that's
back
on
up.
our thing all the time, unless we go to buy like a car where we know, and we won't undo it until the car dealership tells us what company they will check us to.
And do you have to talk to the companies themselves?
Well, you go online to the
Equifax
whichever.
or TransUnion.
Yes,
Yeah.
to whichever of the three credit companies.
Another, let me give you a quick little tip and then I'll come to you. She was talking about, she's got a credit freeze on all three of the credit reporting agencies so that their credit history can't be pinged by a company. That's what would happen if they were trying to open up an account in your name. If you're trying to open up credit, you need to unfreeze it long enough to open that credit and then freeze it back up. But one good thing you can do, I think you're all aware that you can get a free credit report every year from each of those three companies. Well, the first time I heard that, I thought, oh my goodness, I need to check that. So I ran all three of them and then I was comparing, you know, all of these pages. Well, that wasn't the smart way to do it. The smart way to do it is to run one in January, then to run one in March, and then to run one in September. So that you're checking 3 different times of the year to see if there's any unfamiliar activity on your credit report, So take advantage, really leverage those free credit reports that you get and do them at different times of the year so you can see if anything's popped up since 3 months ago when you check it with the other company. So that's a really good tip.
Unfortunately, we've had deaths in the family, but another good thing, if you have a death in the family, is to notify the credit agencies for the dead people so they can't have their identity
Right.
stolen, which is also a scam.
Very good comment. His comment was that they've had some deaths in the family, and so they learned the hard way. But you need to report those to the credit agencies right away, because that is a way that fraudsters and scammers get your information. They might track you from the obituaries, and then try to open accounts knowing that nobody's going to be checking that credit for a while. So that's a really good tip, yeah. Yes?
I have a question about the city bus and the Wi-Fi on the city bus.
Mm-hmm.
Which is free. Just how exactly does that work? I know it's public and you should be careful, but what is happening as you're driving around town?
Well, you could be driving by somebody that's doing that war driving. Yeah, but again, public Wi-Fi, be super careful. But yeah, that's a good,
Yeah, on Snapchat, it's
Right.
all over.
yeah.
You're using different places as you're going.
Well, they might have it in the bus, but it's still going near other places that if they were set up to pirate the Wi-Fi or the information that somebody's using, that it would be dangerous.
I also have one other thing. I
Uh-huh.
actually had a pop-up from the dark web.
Uh-huh.
A couple of days ago, and it said that someone had unfriended me on Facebook and they can help me get into the dark web, so I couldn't figure out how to get it.
Oh.
So I thought,
Yeah, well, that's a new one.
that.
She got a pop-up that said that someone had unfriended her on Facebook and that this company could get her into the dark web so that she could find out who unfriended her. So, yeah, unsolicited, that's one that takes it almost to a comic level, really, but you know, unsolicited. Yeah, I have the blue screen of death too. Have any of you seen that? You're working along and all of a sudden your screen freezes and it's blue and it says warning, warning, warning. And what you need to do, I thought I was at work, I was in panic. But you just turn your machine off. It wants you to click, it wants you to call a number to get unlocked. Don't do any of that, just turn your machine off. When you turn it back on, it's gone. So that's a real common, they lock you up and try to scare you that way. Yes?
When you say protect your devices, do you mean virus protector?
Yes.
Virus
Virus protect them and protect them with passwords. So that if I leave it somewhere, which I've been known to do, nobody can get into it. So that's a good thing.
And when you say leaving your device open, that means like leaving it on?
Leaving it on and not where you don't need your password to move around in it. So like my phone's on all the time, but if I'm not on it for a minute or 45 seconds or something, it'll revert back to that lock.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
The computer doesn't, it just stays open.
Well, mine, if it's at your home, that's probably okay. But if you don't have people in and out of your house, if you've got workmen coming in and out, you're gonna wanna turn that off, you're gonna wanna secure it.
But you say people can drive by and catch things?
If you have an unsecured Wi-Fi, if you haven't locked your Wi-Fi account, where you have to have a password to get into it, yeah, if you have it just open because anybody that comes to your house, you want them to be able to use it, that's also available to your neighbors and anyone driving down the street, so. Yeah. Were there any more questions for Renee? We had some questions going there earlier. Well, with that, I'll be around for a few minutes. Turn in your Fraud Watch Network registrations if you're interested, and thank you very much. Oh, yeah. Yes. Okay, a special thanks to the following sponsors and supporters. AARP Montana, Missoula Food Bank, Missoula Aging Services, Senior Medicare Patrol, Missoula Community Access Television. And the winner, I'm going to make a friend, the last 4 digits are 5021. 5021. Is that you? We've got a crosscut shredder back here for you. And Renee likes to say it's so tiny and handy, you can just carry it right to the mailbox and just zip all your unwanted mail right into it. Thanks much.